as assistant professor in the Department of Pathology, DIMC, and my today's topic is granulomatous inflammatory disease, sarcoidosis, and hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Let's start. Today's outline is definition. First, we define what is the granulomatous inflammation, what is sarcoidosis and hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Then different etiology, pathogenesis, morphology, clinical features, diagnosis, and complication. So I'm just giving you a brief review regarding the granulomatous diseases or granulomatous inflammation, because it's very important to understand first what is the granulomatous disease. Then you know because sarcoidosis and hypersensitivity pneumonitis both are there is granulomas. So what is the granulomatous inflammation? Actually, granuloma is an aggregation of macrophage that form in response to chronic inflammation. So basically, granulomatous inflammation is a type of the chronic inflammation in which the main cells are macrophages that forms granulomas. So whenever the immune response attempt to isolate the foreign substance which are unable to eliminate, so granuloma form in that response. And such substance include bacteria, for example, tuberculosis, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, fungi, histoplasmosis, and different foreign materials such as berylosis. So there are different causes of granulomatous inflammation. I'll tell you in my later slide, but basically the concept is that whenever the immune system fail to attempt any bacteria or any foreign particle, so there is a chronic inflammation in response to that, and that leads to the formation of the granuloma. So this is the basic pathophysiology, how granulomas form in the body or granulomatous inflammation. This is very important to understand the pathogenesis of any granulomatous inflammatory disease such as TB, sarcoidosis, hypersensitivity pneumonitis. So what happened? Whenever antigen is present to the antigen presenting cells, such as what are antigen presenting cells, such as dendritic cells and Langerhans cells. So whenever there is antigen presentation to that cells, that antigen presenting cells secrete interleukin 12. That is the main interleukin that causes differentiation of CD4 cells into Th1 cells. There are two types of CD4 cells, Th1 and Th2 subsets. So Th1 cells are important for granulomatous inflammation, and CD4 cells are important, and CD4 subsites Th1 is important. What happens when these CD4 Th1 cells are activated? They then again secrete another important cytokine, that is interferon gamma. That interferon gamma then activate these macrophages. Then these activated macrophages in turn again secrete tumor necrosis factor alpha. That tumor necrosis factor that leads to this granuloma formation. So what are the components of these granulomas? They are giant cells, which is also called multinucleated giant cells or Langerhans giant cells. So these cells are basically activated macrophages. And these are epithelioid cell. In turn, epithelioid cells are activated macrophages, and these are the fibroblasts and lymphocytes. So they wall off any organism and anything. They wall off these things, form material and form granuloma. So things are important in granulomatous formation. You have to remember cell types, for example, CD4, Th1 subside, macrophages, and these three cytokines: interleukin 12, interferon gamma, and tumor necrosis, TNF. So these are important. Another clinical point which is important, that anti-TNF therapy, for example, infliximab and adalimumab. These are the anti-TNF therapy which we give in different inflammatory diseases, inflammatory bowel disease such as Crohn's disease and rheumatoid arthritis. So what happened whenever we try to give these anti-TNF therapy, we have to check the patient for latent tuberculosis. because whenever you give this anti-TNF therapy, they wall off these granulomas and they causes disseminated TB. So you have to check before starting anyone to anti-TNF therapy for latent TB. And the other very important point is hypercalcemia. What happened? These activated macrophages, they secrete one important enzyme, which is 1-alpha hydroxylase. This enzyme is actually causes activation of vitamin D. And vitamin D in turn causes hypercalcemia, because the function of vitamin D is to absorb calcium from intestine. They also absorb calcium from kidney. So whenever there is a granulomatous inflammation such as sarcoidosis, there is a hypercalcemia, and this is an important point because of this increased alpha-1 hydroxylase enzyme. So this is the then I told you there are different causes of granulomatous inflammation. There is a in vasculitis such as Becher disease. There is a granulomatous inflammation in infectious causes, for example, TB, fungus, Kaczynski disease, idiopathic such as sarcoidosis. Then there are some autoimmune disorder and chemical exposure such as barium. So there are a number of different causes of granulomatous inflammation. Could be infectious, could be autoimmune, could be idiopathic. So my topic today is sarcoidosis. Okay, now there is another important point which is linked to today's topic is caseating and non-caseating granulomatous inflammation. So in sarcoidosis, there is a non-caseating granulomatous inflammation. So this is the picture of lung tissue, and you can see there are multiple granulomas. They are whole pattern type. There are multiple granuloma, but there is non-caseating. Non-caseating means there is no necrosis in that tissue. So that when there is no necrosis, there is non-caseating granulomatous inflammation. So example of non-caseating granulomatous inflammation are sarcoidosis due to the chemical exposure, in vasculitis. These these all are the example of non-caseating granulomatous inflammation. And what is caseating the granulomatous inflammation? In caseating granulomatous inflammation, there is a necrosis. So how you appreciate the necrosis in the tissue? Whenever there is the pink area in the tissue, which is called like this, and here, which resemble a necrosis. Okay, so what are the example of the caseating granulomatous inflammation? TB and fungal infection. So these are two morphological classification of granulomas, caseating and non-caseating, which you can appreciate on the tissue biopsy. So this is all about granulomatous inflammation. Now the topic is sarcoidosis. I already told you the sarcoidosis is the systematic non-caseating granulomatous disease. Etiology is widely unknown, but sarcoidosis involves many tissue from in the body, from head to toe, like involve the CNS, it involves the heart, involve the lungs, kidney, kidney and spleen. And it can be they are the skin lesions. So sarcoidosis is actually a multi-system disease, but the most common presentation is in the lung, which is bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy or lung involvement, which is most common in 90% of the cases. So what is bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy? This is the chest X-ray of the sarcoidosis patient, and they are the hilar lymph nodes, and they are enlarged in sarcoidosis. So this is the bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy, which is the most common presentation in the sarcoidosis patient. Now epidemiology. Sarcoidosis is a disease of young patient, younger than 40 years, and it is more common in women, and it is more common in African American. In US is a 10 times higher in the blacks in African American than the whites. So whenever there is a scenario related to sarcoidosis, just remember most of the time the woman presenting patient is the woman which is younger in age, like in late 30s or early 40s, and there is African American woman. So this is the this is the important point in regard to the epidemiology. So this is the disease of the young patient. And etiology is widely unknown. Either we don't know either the exposure is environmental or infectious, but there is some genetic association with certain HLA genotype, such as HLA-A1, HLA-B8. Okay. Now pathogenesis is the same which already we discussed in the granulomatous inflammation. That is, antigen is present into the antigen presenting whatever the antigen, and that antigen presenting cell that activates via interleukin 12 CD4 T cell subtype is Th1. Then this CD4 cell in turn activates macrophages, and macrophages secrete tumor necrosis factor. Then tumor necrosis factor alpha is responsible for granulomatous inflammation in different tissue of the body, such as in lung, in CNS, in the spleen, in liver. So this is the pathophysiology. Pathogenesis is the same as we discussed already. Now just think about that. Where this is the slide from your book basis. What happened? We already discussed that whenever there is a granulomatous inflammation, what happened? There is a high level of CD4 T cells. Obviously, because CD4 T cells are activated by antigen presenting cells, and that secrete Th1 dependent cytokines, and there are different cytokines such as interleukin 2, interferon gamma. They all are increase in that tissue, which is responsible for the granulomatous inflammation. And ultimately, there is tumor necrosis factor alpha, which are released at the high level in the alveolar macrophages, and that correlate with the disease activity. Whenever we do the broncho lavage, we put the bronchoscope, and we put out the different secretion from the lungs. So there is always the high ratio of CD4 and CD8 in that tissue, and there is an increased level of tumor necrosis factor that correlate with the marker of the disease activity, because tumor necrosis factor alpha is secreted by the macrophages, and whenever there is an increased activation of the macrophages, there is increased TNF alpha. This is the pathogenesis. Now, morphology is non-necrotizing granulomatous inflammation. That is, granuloma is formed by the tightly clustered epithelial macrophages, often with the giant cell, which is called Langerhans giant cells, which is the one of the feature. And the other features are central, because this is non-chelating, so central necrosis is unusual. And the other two important features, which is specific to the sarcoidosis, are the Schaumann body and the asteroid body. So what are the Schaumann body and what are the asteroid bodies? So these two you already know, and we discussed the last two. So asteroid body, actually, this is the crystal, this is the needle type inclusion, eosinophilic inclusion, which is present in multinucleated giant cells. This is called asteroid body. So this is present in sarcoidosis patient in 60% of the cases. And this is the Schaumann body. Schaumann body is this. This is the actually crystalline crystals, which is usually composed of the calcium salt. Because we discussed that there is a hypercalcemia in sarcoidosis patient because of increased level of alpha-1 hydroxylase, which are secreted by the activated macrophages. So these are the Schaumann body. So you have to remember these all 4 points, which are important. Okay. Now the clinical feature. Clinical features are most common clinical features are related to lung pathology. So we discussed already, that is hilar lymphadenopathy. Now other thing is sarcoidosis is interstitial lung disease. What do you mean by interstitial lung disease? Interstitial lung disease are diseases that are due to the scarring and fibrosis, which involve the interstitium of the lung. And interstitium means the tissue that surround the alveolar sac, airways, blood vessel. So basically, there are the huge classification. There are number of diseases, interstitial lung diseases, which causes inflammation and scarring of the interstitium of the lung, and sarcoidosis is one of them. Now, in all the interstitial lung diseases, the pattern is restricted pattern. If you learn the physiology, there are 2 types of lung diseases: obstructive and restrictive lung diseases. So what happened in restrictive lung diseases? Because there is fibrosis, there is scarring and inflammation. So there is lung are unable to inflate. So there is restricted respiration, expansion of that lung. So that happen in restrictive pattern, and which causes decreased lung volume. So decrease total lung capacity, decrease forced vital capacity, but their ratio is increased. So that is specific for restrictive lung disease. And obstructive ratio is decreased and restrictive ratio is increased. So whenever you do the pulmonary function test of sarcoidosis patient, there is restrictive pattern and you find these all finding. Now, obviously there is fibrosis, there is scarring, there is inflammation, there is halar lymphadenopathy. So what happened to the patient? There is a shortness of the breath, cough, chest pain, weight loss, night sweat, B symptoms, and ultimately if there is a chronic pattern in chronic form, there is a pulmonary fibrosis and cor pulmonale. Cor pulmonale is basically the right-sided heart failure, which is due to the lung pathology. So this is in the extreme cases. Now, other presentation. This is the most common presentation, but you have to know other presentation. What are other presentation? Arthritis, interior uveitis, and erythema nodosum. What is interior uveitis? This is the interior uveitis means inflammation of the uvea. Uvea is actually the middle layer of eye that is between the iris and cornea. So whenever you see this type of picture, this is interior uveitis. So remember, there uveitis with different systematic diseases. One example is sarcoidosis. Other example is inflammatory bowel disease such as Crohn and ulcerative colitis, and other are vasculitis. In vasculitis, there is association of vasculitis with interior uveitis. So whenever you see the scenario like this, in which there is inflammation of iris or eye, so remember there's a link of interior uveitis with other systematic diseases as well. So sarcoidosis is one of them. This is the erythema nodosum. So erythema nodosum is this type of lesions. They are painful, tender lesions, which are in brown in color. That is usually present in the lower extremity, lower limb. And they are also associated with sarcoidosis, but they can be in other diseases such as in inflammatory bowel diseases, in different vasculitis, in mycoplasma pneumonia, in drug allergic reactions. So there are association of erythema nodosum with other diseases as well, and sarcoidosis is one of them. And skin finding is 25% in cases. That one of skin finding is lupus perineo and facial rash. So what is lupus perineo? It is a purple type skin lesion that is present in the nose and this chin. That is actually lupus perineo. And facial, it can be present like a facial rash as well. And other systems, it involve the musculoskeletal system. Arthritis is most common. This is important. CNS. In CNS, what happened in CNS type of sarcoidosis called neurosarcoidosis, which causes facial palsy, hypopituitarism, and diabetes insipidus. Whenever there is a granulomatous inflammation in the CNS, which causes compression of the pituitary gland. So pituitary gland secrete different hormones such as ADH, growth hormone, and as well as other hormones. So what happened whenever there is compression due to that neurosarcoidosis, that there's a hypopituitarism symptom and diabetes insipidus. So diabetes insipidus is a deficiency of ADH. Whenever there's a deficiency of ADH, the function of ADH to retain the water in the body. So there is polyuria and polydipsia. In case of diabetes insipidus, there are no ADH, you can't retain your water, so there is polyuria and polydipsia. And in heart, there is a restrictive cardiomyopathy and pericardial infusion, and liver hepatomegaly and spleen splenomegaly. So you can see that sarcoidosis is not a good disease. It involves almost your all system, and it is present in the young patient. So that is quite problematic disease, but the most common presentation is lung. But you have to remember at least these as well. And now we already discussed this, what problem in the calcium metabolism. There is increased alpha-1 hydroxylase. There is hypercalcemia in sarcoidosis patient. Why? Because there is increased activation of this 125. This is the activated form of vitamin D. So what happened? Activated vitamin D activation is occur in the kidney via this enzyme, alpha-1 hydroxylase. Okay, somebody is in the chat. Okay, I'll Please slow down. Okay, actually, okay, I'm just slowing down, and I'll answer your question in the end. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just running fast because of the short of time, and because of this hypercalcemia, whenever there is increased calcium, there is nephrocalcinosis and nephrolithiasis. There is increased risk of stone. This is a very good presentation. Thank you. Okay. So, Lofgren syndrome and Hayford syndrome. So, what is this? This is the acute presentation of acute sarcoidosis. So, whenever there is uveitis, there is parotitis, and there is a facial palsy. What happened in neurosarcoidosis? Facial nerve can be compressed. So, there is a feature of Bell's palsy or the facial palsy. It is called Hayford syndrome, and the other one is Lofgren syndrome. So whenever there is lung pathology, there is this erythema nodosum, and there is arthritis. So these three, when present, that is called Lofgren syndrome. So these are the presentation of acute sarcoidosis. And we already discussed all these points. Biopsy is a gold standard. When you do the lung biopsy, there is a non-granulomatous inflammation, or there is the asteroid body, Schaumann body, and chest. What you see the chest X-ray. In chest X-ray, there is a bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy. In the chest, at chest CT, there is a lymphadenopathy. There's inflammation, scarring, the increased calcium level because of increased activity of 1-alpha hydroxylase, and there is increased activity of angiotensin converting enzyme. Angiotensin converting enzyme is also secreted by activated macrophages. And when you do the bronchoalveolar lavage, what is bronchoalveolar lavage? Whenever you pass the bronchoscope through your mouth and nose, and you just put out the respiratory secretion, and you analyze these secretion, there is increased CD4 to CD8 ratio. Why? Because CD4 cells are involved in the pathogenesis of granulomatous inflammation in the sarcoidosis. So there was increased CD4 and CD8 ratio in that tissue sample. But somebody is saying something. Okay. But there is, remember this important point, in the serum, CD4 levels are low. Why? Because they are consumed in the granulomas. So whenever you do the tissue biopsy or bronchoalveolar lavage, there are increased CD4 or CD8. But when you take the serum sample, there are decreased CD4 levels because they are consumed in granulomatous inflammation. The complication is there is pulmonary fibrosis, core pulmonary, or increased risk of malignancy such as lymphoma. Now, second topic is hypersensitivity pneumonitis. I don't know what's going on. Escape. Sorry. Hypersensitivity pneumonitis is actually a reaction after exposure of any allergen, as the name shows that hypersensitivity. So in hypersensitivity pneumonitis, there is exposure of any environmental allergens. So what are these environmental allergens and how they causes different presentations, and they are associated with interstitial lung disease. Again, hypersensitivity pneumonitis is one of the example of interstitial lung diseases. What are the interstitial lung diseases which involve the interstitium, which causes inflammation and scarring? In interstitial lung disease, there is a restrictive pattern of lung diseases. All volumes are decreased, the ratio is increased. And because there are exposure to the environmental allergens, so some occupational groups are most commonly exposed, such as those they are exposed to bird or hay or certain chemical substance such as former. So etiology is, it is a combined type 3 and type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. What are the type 3 and type 4 hypersensitivity reaction? Type 3 is a antigen antibody type of hypersensitivity reaction, and type 4 is cell mediated type of hypersensitivity reaction. So in type 4 is CD4 and CD8 cells are involved, and in type 3 are different antibodies or antigen complexes are formed in the body. So these are the combined type 3 and type 4 hypersensitivity reaction, and which is usually due to exposure of different allergen, but which is primarily through the occupational exposure, and the farmers are frequently affected. So what are different exposures? First, one of this is animal protein. So exposure to doping serum of feather of the birds is called pigeon breeder lung, and other exposure is this actinomycete. This is the fungal spore, and it is called farmer lung. Then these spores from a different air conditioner and humidifier, and these are a different chemical substance. So whenever you see any scenario related to the hypersensitivity pneumonitis, so just think about in the scenario there is always a clue related to occupational exposure. Either there is an exposure to bird, or there is a farmer, or there is any like pet exposure. So that is related to the hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Now again, pathogenesis. So it is actually combined type 3 and type 4 reaction. In type 3, the immune complexes are formed, and the immune complexes activated B lymphocytes, and they form the different antibodies or immunoglobulins. And then ultimately that immunoglobulin is called complement activation of the neutrophils, and lung inflammation. And in cell mediated type, that is type 4, CD4 or CD8 cells are involved, and that secrete again interleukin 12, interferon gamma, and that again secrete different interleukins and activate different cells and causes inflammation and scarring. So it's combined type 3 and type 4 type of reaction, in which CD4, CD8 cells and antibodies, all are three are involved in the pathogenesis of hypersensitivity pneumonitis, which is different from sarcoidosis. In sarcoidosis, there is no immunoglobulins or antibodies are involved. That is isolated CD4 type disease. But in hypersensitivity pneumonitis, this is type mixture of antibody and cell mediated type reaction. So pathogenesis is again whenever you do the bronchoalveolar lavage, when you pass the bronchoscope, there are increased different cytokines such as interleukin 8 and one interferon. And this is the important point, that is in hypersensitivity pneumonitis, there are increased number of both CD4 and the CD8 cells. In sarcoidosis, there is increased ratio of only CD4 cells, but in hypersensitivity pneumonitis, the both CD4 and CD8 cells are activated, and there are specific antibodies are also formed, because it is also involved type 3 type of reaction. And if there is, because of type 4 hypersensitivity, there is also presence of non-cassating granuloma in hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Morphology is because of type 4, there is non-cassating granuloma in 2/3 of patients. There is interstitial pneumonitis that is primarily consists of lymphocytes, plasma cells, and macrophages. And there is interstitial fibrosis, because every interstitial lung disease causes fibrosis, scarring, chronic inflammation. But important thing is interstitial pneumonitis, there consists primarily of the lymphocyte, plasma cells, and macrophages. The lymphocytes are like this. This is the granulomatous inflammation, and these small cells, dark blue small cells, these all are lymphocytes. So this is the morphological picture of hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Now, clinical feature are acute and chronic. Acute exposure, what happened in acute exposure? There is a fever, dyspnea, cough, leukocytosis, usually lymphocytosis, chest tightness, and symptoms subside after 12 hours to days. But in chronic exposure, there is progressive respiratory failure, there is progressive dyspnea, fatigue, and decrease in total lung capacity and the compliance, because it's a type of restrictive lung disease. And picture is similar to other chronic interstitial diseases. Okay, Now diagnosis, chest, what you see the chest X-ray, that in chest X-ray, this is the reticulonodular infiltrate. You can see here, or it can be diffuse. So patchy reticulonodular or diffuse interstitial infiltrate in mid to upper zone. For example, in this picture, and in the chronic cases, there is a honeycomb appearance. So all the interstitial lung diseases which leads to the chronic inflammation cause this type of inflammation. It is this type of lung picture. It is called honeycomb appearance. This is irreversible fibrotic changes, and there's also thickening of the alveolar septum. This is the picture. Now, how you diagnose there, first of all, history is important, signs and symptoms are important, and tests are whenever you do the bronchoalveolar lavage, there are predominantly lymphocyte cells in that lavage and increased CD4 and CD8 cell. And when you do the pulmonary function test, there is a restrictive pattern of that cells, decrease all lung volume and increase ratio. And whenever you do the serology, there is an antibodies. Could be if patient in acute phase IgM body and in chronic phase IgG body. And whenever you do the lung biopsy, these are all features present in the lung biopsy. So, and complication is ultimately it's an interstitial lung disease which causes fibrosis, cor pulmonale. How you treat, you avoid that antigen exposure, and you also offer patient glucocorticoid therapy. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? What is the etiology and cause of the disease? In case of sarcoidosis, the etiology and cause is largely unknown, but why don't granuloma can form in hypersensitive pneumonitis. In 2/3 of cases, granuloma form. Yes, it can form. Here you can see non-causating granuloma in 2/3 cases. HRCT is the high resolution CT scan. It is a CT scan which is called high resolution CT scan. If the pathology is not obvious in chest X-ray, you can do the HRCT. So CT is basically CT scan, high resolution CT scan, and the findings are same. There is inflammation, scarring, honeycomb appearance. So this is the question of etiology question. That is, etiology in the cases of the sarcoidosis is largely unknown, but in case of the hypersensitive pneumonitis, it is due to the environmental allergen exposure. Any question?